have a sign-up sheet that if anybody hasn't had an opportunity to sign.
Okay, folks, we'll try to get started. The town hall location or town hall redevelopment has been an issue that Arundel has been dealing with for many, many years. When I first got hired in June of last year, one of the things that we talked about was trying to at least move forward with some conceptual plans or locations for the town hall, and then provide those opportunities to the town and get your feedback as to what we're looking at. At this particular point, we have three sites that have sort of percolated to the top of the water, and the first site would be what we would call our US Route 1 site. It's a town-owned piece of property next to Plamondon's Electric. And this is the schematic for that particular site. The second site that we're looking at is privately owned. It's on Limerick Road. We were looking initially at the property of about 4 acres or so, but the selectmen have been talking about that the site may be, the whole site, which is over 30 acres, may be for sale, and we may entertain further discussion on that. So maybe that will come up tonight. We can talk a little bit about that as well. And the final site came up late in the process, and it's at the corner of River Road and Route 1 across the street from Arundel Market. The site has been cleared to a certain extent. We were looking at the first 2 lots, which are about 6.5 acres of land. And I have a map of that site here. The owner of the property has done some more work on wetlands delineation there, and we've been able to place a building upon that property to the size that we would be looking at. The community, as I understand, we're looking at a building about 8,000 square feet, and then accommodate 100 or so parking spaces, because we would have our meeting functions and hopefully town hall meeting there as well, annual town hall meeting. So those are the sites. Will Conway from Sevago Technics, who has been very helpful to me, Will's right up front here, he helped do all the work and the site development and the cost associated with those on each one of these sites. We haven't got there to the third site yet, but Will can sort of explain what we were thinking about on these sites. And then after he makes a presentation, we'll try to open it up for some general discussion. I think there are people here that also want to make a presentation to the public about their thoughts about which site is more advantageous for the town to consider, not only in the initial years, but maybe future years. So I think there'll be a presentation of that as well. But I'll have Will do a quick analysis of what he has here for us. Will?
Thank you, Keith. So the Route 1 site is got a narrow right-of-way here, and there's an existing driveway into Plamondon that would be used as a shared driveway and reconfigured somewhat so that you'd come straight into the town hall, you'd turn right into the Plamondon business. So sort of right away there's an immediate association between the town hall and existing business. You can decide whether that's good or not good. But the other thing about this site, once you get on it and develop it, it's a very rocky site. The high point of the property, and this plan includes a proposed gift or small compensation to Plamondon of about an acre of his property in this location here. And this is the most buildable portion of the site. If you move this way, you have wetland delineation, you have streams, possibly vernal pools in this area. So it's a combination of rock and environmental constraints. We estimated the cost of this project, site work, to be $816,000. Then you look at this site here on Limerick Road, which is not far from where we're standing. It's an open field. It's much less constrained than this site. It has good soils. There's no ledge present here. This is a much more constructible site, and our estimated site work cost for this site, $610,000, so quite a bit less. Now, that's somewhat offset by the requirement to purchase this from the private landowner, where this is town property complemented by a gift or a small compensation to Plamondon. And I can't speak to what those values are, but it brings the two sites into consideration financially comparable, perhaps. Except, one thing that you have to consider, two things I'll say, and then I'll sit down and open it to your questions. In terms of when you go to construction, as a site designer like me, I can only do so good to advise my client on cost. The costs we've generated are based on limited information. We did some geotechnical work here to confirm that both sites can accommodate a building on spread footings, which is the most economical. Both sites can accommodate a septic system, which would be required on either site. However, you really don't know the extent of rock excavation on this site. And, you know, the one thing you don't want during construction is a surprise. And the element of surprise is much greater on this site than it is on this site. And then the last thing I'll say, and this is just my opinion, I live in Kennebunk. I don't live in Arundel, but my daughter does. I've been in this area for over 30 years, and to me, if I think about a town hall for your town, it really doesn't belong on Route 1, it belongs on this road, which is where this building is, it's where your town hall is, it's where your fire department is. And those are just my opinions on that. So, Keith, I'll close and open it up to any questions.
Can you just explain site work though before you just explain to those of us novices exactly what site work is when you're giving us the 816 and 610.
Okay.
What's included in site work?
Okay, so what that includes, the first thing is to go in and clear the site. Now, in this case, there's quite a bit of vegetation that has to be removed. On this site, there isn't any. The second is earthwork, is altering the existing terrain to accommodate for the building placement, parking lots, driveways, things like that. And then there is a project of this size on either site will require a permit from Maine DEP for stormwater management. So you're going to have to build stormwater ponds. Those are factored in. Things like utilities, sidewalks, pavement for parking lots, etc., are all part of, it's anything that requires the project to be built except for the building.
Is there an estimated cost? So the cost of the building wouldn't change depending on the site too much?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So any estimated costs? Does anybody have an estimated cost?
Estimated cost of the building? Right now, I've projected it to 8,000 square feet, and I've used a $200 a square foot, which is probably on the high side, in my view. So you're looking at $1.6 million just for the building.
Of course, I know you have not done the work on the third site that you mentioned, but based on your experience, you're walking around, I'm sure, do you have a gut feel as to whether it's more like the Route 1 site or more like the Limerick Road site?
I don't know,
And
sir.
I'm not trying to get...
I learned about it 5 minutes ago, so,
Oh,
you know, I can't answer your question.
Okay.
Does that include septic, the site work,
Yes.
septic as well? Okay, sorry.
You are connected to water on Route 1 that you don't have on Limerick Road.
That's correct.
Plus your electric, everything is,
Yes, that's been factored into the estimate. Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions. How did the town acquire a piece of land that belongs to the town? And has there ever been any discussion about other ways to use that? And how much is it going to cost for the second piece?
I defer to the selectmen to answer how they came to own it.
We acquired it by virtue of a gift from one of our citizens who happens to be in the audience right here.
Freebie.
And has there ever been any discussion about other ways to use that?
Not really. No.
And the other piece of property would cost how much to purchase?
I don't think we know yet.
And is that the one that's gone from smaller number of acres to 30 acres?
Do we know what the 4 acres would cost?
Well, we have some broad costs that we've thrown around, but we haven't definitively nailed down a exact cost. But for the Limerick Road site, we were anywhere between 200 and 300. Again, it has not been nailed down. And for the Route 1 River Road site, it was around 250.
Just as a matter of interest on that, we bought a piece of land opposite the Limerick Road site a couple of years back. Very buildable, it's up West Lane, unfortunately. That cost us $65,000 for 2.5 acres. I wouldn't be paying $200,000 for 4 acres on the other side of the road. Just so as you know. And I have another question
Marty.
which relates to
He's still going.
Go ahead.
It concerns the Route 1 site. Are there any traffic management issues associated with that site? Would we need additional traffic lights or anything? Is there-
No, I don't think so.
You know?
No. Marty?
Conveniently, we said 4 acres there. Why don't we say how many acres is on the gifted piece of land, so the rest of the public would know?
The gifted piece is about just under 11 acres. I think it's 10.8. And the acreage to the piece that we're looking at on the River Road in Route 1 is about 6.5 acres.
Okay, all that has been wetland delineated years ago. It should be in the town hall.
Which one?
That one right there.
Yeah, the owner of that property has, once it was cleared, he has hired himself another wetlands individual to come in and delineate the wetlands now that it's been cleared, and has identified those again on this sheet that I have here, as well as placing on this form a location in which a town hall could be located.
And for the Limerick Road property, it's 4 acres, but there's an opportunity for 36 acres. It's a 36-acre piece. They've kind of sectioned off, 4 acres, but the 36 acres is available.
Yes, sir.
Question, on the Route 1 sites, am I correct in believing those are both now delineated as business development sites? Business development zones?
Yeah, the front is DB1 and the back is DB2.
And this one is in DB2 then, they want the freebie site, let's call it that.
Yes.
The site we own now is in DB2, correct?
Yeah.
So if a business were to come in there and buy it from the town, they would presumably pay something for that land, right? If this is a business development zone, I assume we would be trying to develop business there. To have someone come in and build something, and build a business, employ some people, generate some tax revenue. So that's what it's.
Very
going to be
good
doing.
point. It just has not got to that point for a discussion, because, we're trying to,
But that potential is there.
yes, it is.
To both return some money to the town coffers on the sale and generate tax money for the business to go there.
There's a lady up there.
Yes, ma'am.
Come on.
Yeah, I just wanted to give my opinion. It might not be as valid as other people's because I will be directly across from the town hall. But in my opinion, in looking to the future, and I've been to many, many towns all in the United States, And their town halls are not on some road where people have to go find them. They're near what is considered the center of town. So in my opinion, a Route 1 property, one or the other, is much more valid for the future than the property on Limerick Road. It's a residential area. It's not a business area.
Yes, sir.
The Limerick Road site, if the 38 acres were available, does that abut the Eastern Trail?
No.
Or, no?
It doesn't, it
No.
does not
No.
about.
Okay.
Well, what about 36 acres?
It does not, but there could be an opportunity for the town to get a right of way to get to the eastern trail.
Like you would just build maybe a trail from the town hall all the way to it. I mean, maybe
Yes.
it's nice to have parking too.
We have access to the Eastern Trail now. That shouldn't even be considered. We're talking, right now, we're in an RSU, we have no idea what it's gonna cost us. That's gonna take up, that school budget is gonna take up a big part of our taxes in the coming years. And now we're talking about spending $1.5 million on a building. We're gonna go out and spend $815,000 on, $800,000 on site work and another $300,000 on a piece of land. You know, somebody's got deep pockets, I don't have them. And we're gonna go with the sheriff's department? Where do you people think all this money is coming from? You selectmen are spending money that we don't have. I don't know where you think it's coming from.
Thank you.
We're not spending money. This is
You're
your
not.
vote.
But then
This
put
is
the
your vote.
town
We're
hall
putting it up.
where it is and fix it up. And let's forget about spending all this money. My God. Let's see what the school is gonna do to us for the next 3 years, okay? And then come back and see what we can do for a town hall. We're getting along just fine. I have a budget that I have to go by. I'm retired. And I'm sure everybody else in here has a budget that they have to follow. This is getting ridiculous. Look at this, $1.5 million and another $1 million on top of that. We need a new sheriff, another car. Holy mackerel. And then the school budget? We're gonna have to sell our houses and move out of town.
Yes, Don?
I guess I'd like to address two different sides of this. One is, with regards to Route 1 properties, I have heard at a variety of committee meetings for more years than I care to think about, the complaint and the factual complaint that there is very little developable land on Route 1. That is our business district. The idea was to encourage businesses to move into the areas around Route 1, DB1, DB2, increase the tax base and so on. I think it would be foolhardy to take any of that developable land and use it for municipal purposes, and therefore squash any opportunity for a business to come in and generate revenue. To Joanne's point, I doubt that there's a person in this room that does not, on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis, separate what they want from what they need. And the town hall has issues, yes, we could all discuss why it has issues, and that's a lack of foresight from a long time ago. But I agree with Joanne, we have a town hall on a piece of property. We do have some money set aside for town hall improvements. I say we stick with the one that we have for the time being, because the next generation is going to pay for the RSU bills. And the town should be working on the same basis as we do in our own homes. What do you want, but what do you need? We may want a fancy town hall with all the bells and whistles, but we don't necessarily need it. And attached to that, a thought that occurred to me today, the average person in this town probably spends less than an hour a year in town hall. And even if we had our meetings in a town hall, still the average person in this town would spend less than an hour a year in town hall. Granted, a new building would be more comfortable for the employees, and I don't in any way want to disparage them. They work hard, and they do a great job for us. But again, what do we want versus what do we need? And this is a big expense to put on people who have fixed incomes, kids, are working on a regular basis to make ends meet and preparing for their own personal emergencies as opposed to something that it would be nice to have.
And the town, I would like to echo the same sentiments. The town hall is, obviously needs some updates. And I've lived in Kennybunk before, and I live here in Arundel, and I think the people at town hall are fantastic. I was always unpleasant going to Kennybunk, and I really like the people in our town hall here. And, I appreciate what they do. I have no idea why we're talking about building a room to have town meetings in. I was driving by the Kennebunkport Fire Station today and thought, oh, that's where they hold their town meetings. Why would we need a separate room to hold 5 meetings a year that have enough people? We pay for this. I know it's not ours, but we pay an awful lot. We pay 75% of our tax dollars go towards this building and the other buildings like it. We should be able to use it for a town meeting 4 times a year. There's no reason to. It's an 8,000 square foot building. What is the building now? 2,600, 2,800 square feet? Maybe we need a 4,000 square foot building, which would cut your cost from 1.6 to 800,000. It would reduce your site work. And when you start talking about site work in places, if you're, that Route 1 site is obviously awful for that because it's all wetlands and rock and stuff. But, the site where it is now, yes, it's an unfortunate corner. It's tough to park sometimes. But how many days a year is that really an issue? Every time I go to the town hall 10 times, 15 times a year, and I can pull into the parking lot. There's no parking issues because there's only 6 times a year that there's more than 12 people that aren't working at the town hall in the town hall. 100 parking spots. It'd be great to have that, but maybe we hire a sheriff to stand out there for the 2 hours, during the evening when people are voting twice a year. Do we need an 8,000 square foot building to make that easier? We need 100 parking spots to make that 1 time a year easier. So, if it's an issue with parking for voting, maybe we vote in the school. And then we know what we're paying for when we walk into the school.
Yes.
Well, I think his ideas are pretty good too, to consider. But I'm wondering what the relationship is between these sites and the visioning and the work that was done previously by some of us with that consultant and other meetings in terms of what people thought we should have in a town center, not just buildings. So is there any relationship still from that work that was done? Good question.
I'm not quite sure. The board may have a better idea of that than I. It wasn't discussed while I've been on board.
Are you referencing the Chesapeake study? That was your?
I'm referencing
The economic development.
Yeah.
The economic development study, yeah.
I could probably speak to that a little bit.
As can I was on that board too.
Would you like to take it?
No, you take it, Linda.
Basically, what came out of that is the community wanted to keep its agricultural and rural feel. And basically, based on that, I up until 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was all for Route 1. That's where it belonged. But I see a whole entirely different vision with the town hall being on the Old Limerick Road based on where it is with the possibility of having access to the Eastern Trail if that can be arranged because it goes in with what the town was looking for, that rural vision of
which is
with
what,
agricultural
like the
vision.
majority of people were thinking, that was the,
And he came back with an agricultural,
I commend you.
what are the words?
That report is on the website, I believe. It's
Yes.
on the website, and if it's not, I'm sure you get a copy from Keith. He spoke of, he talked to several hundred folks in town, and a lot of businesses in town too, and he came back with several main conclusions. One, Arundel does not have a center. There is no there. 2, the town needs a sense of community to draw the people together. It also needs a place of community, a place where we can call the center, where people can meet, where activities can take place, and where the town can say, where Google will go. When you say, where's Arundel, it'll go there. And it really truly does reflect. Now it goes to where? Townhouse Street.
Goes to Bentley's.
No,
We are a rural town, and we need to continue, the people want to stay a rural feeling town. And beyond that, it talked about a number of other things, and I commend it to you to read it. It's easy reading, about 30, I guess, pages, the summary report. But he also mentioned that the town facilities, the municipal town hall, is inadequate from a communication standpoint, from a space standpoint, from a efficiency standpoint. It's out of date. I mean, those who say we don't need one should spend time there. It is hopeless. It needs to be fixed. It's our image. People come to town, businesses come to town. They go to the town hall, what do they see? A dump. What kind of image does that give to them? It's a dump. It is a dump.
I'm gonna, guys, I'm gonna start.
There's plenty of towns in the state of Maine that have dumped.
Okay, no, I'm gonna go with it, with, Mr. Ynon first.
Okay. I look at these two pieces of the two pieces of property that I look at are the Route 1 and the Limerick Road. The problem I have with Limerick Road, somebody said, well, we own this property on Route 1, why don't we just sell it? Why would I want to sell a piece of property to spend all of the money to buy another piece of property? To me, that doesn't make a great deal of sense. I like the Route 1 property because we're looking at having sewer put down Route 1. We're looking at water already in existence there. We own the property, and one of the questions that the planning board dealt with in creating the DB2 district was getting a business to go in there to open up that area. I believe that if the town hall were there, it would open up the DB area, and it would make it more attractive for other businesses to go into. Could I be wrong? Of course, because I don't own Marty's crystal ball. But I could very well be wrong about that, but I think that that would be a positive benefit to going with the Route 1 property. The drawback to me for the Limerick Road, nobody can tell me what that property is going to cost. We're hearing $200,000 to $300,000 for 4 acres. That's $50,000 to $75,000 per acre. That's an outrageous.
36 acres. 4 acres to 36.
Well, they're talking about 4 acres being $200,000 to $300,000. If it were for the entire 36 acres, that might be a good deal. But it's not a good deal for 4 acres of land. And we have no guarantee that we'll be able to get to the Eastern Trail or anything else with that property. So if I were going to vote, I would vote for the Route 1 property.
Okay, Marty?
Well, again, everybody wants business and everything else. This is supposed to be in the business zone. This is what it was created for. Why don't the town follow its own guidelines and put it in a business zone? Because isn't the town hall a business?
No.
No? We don't have anybody employed there. I mean, it is a business. It is a business. Simple and plain. And as for the Eastern Trail on the other place, who cares about the Eastern Trail? You don't do anything for the businesses on Route 1 anyway. Maybe you might do something if you had your town hall on Route 1.
But it would do something for the economic development of the town. It was brought up.
And you.
Your turn's later.
Yeah.
I'm just following up my own.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Did you point to me?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry. I don't like the point.
Not to make work for anybody, but if the people's voices were taken in that study, could that be summarized and added to this discussion at the next step or on the website? You know, I mean, I might read that report, but I doubt many other people would. So I would say that since that work is in somewhat recent memory, why isn't it informing this discussion? And can't you get an estimate on how much that Limerick Road piece might cost from the owner?
Eventually we will, yes.
Like some, you know. That's it.
I have a feeling that I'm going to be rude and pissed out of the room. But I want to do a little bit of a paradigm shift, and that is, I agree, the town hall it's a really decrepit building. And when I worked for the state, I worked in a building like that, and it was a horrible place to have to go in on a daily basis and feel good and upbeat about where I was working. what I am wondering has any consideration been given to putting temporary buildings there, tearing that building down, and building something on that site? Because it's there, and with some creative thinking, I don't know, with setbacks and so forth, is there some way that what we already have couldn't be used and house town hall someplace else?
Can I kind of answer that?
Sure.
I think part of that was discussed when they put the fire station there, because they basically had to kitty corner it so they could get it to meet the setbacks. Our back door opens up and there's like literally, I don't even know if there's 3 feet to the Lang's yard. The parking, if there should ever be, God help us, a call in the middle of an election, I don't know where the fire department people would park to be able to get out of the fire station with all the gear and everything else. And to sit there and it's already been said or looked at in the future that if the fire department needed to expand, if the town hall weren't there, they would have room to expand and maybe put it as a public service building if you ever need to put the police and fire together. That's a possibility. While I have the floor, can I make a couple other statements? Or do you want to go around? Okay, one thing that people have been talking about, the cost of taxes. Your tax bill this year included, I believe, the bond money for this school. In the first few years, we're supposed to be the highest, and it will be going down. And I think the budget board and the selectmen did a very good job in managing, and we have growth. We've got the new seasonal cottages coming in with a TIF and different things like that coming in. And we can't keep saying, you know, we gotta squeak it, we gotta squeak it. At some point, we've gotta do something for Arundel. And I think they did an excellent job in maintaining the mill rate, because the homestead went up and a lot of people's taxes went down this year instead of going up. So I think it's a scare tactic to say that I think if we bond this town hall and we do it correctly and finance it correctly, we've already got money put aside to help buy or build or begin the construction. So I think if it's bonded correctly, you probably will see, if no increase, a very minimal increase in your taxes. I have been working there for 26 years. It is not repairable. I mean, that basement, we go down there and we flick the lights and make noise so we can get the mice out of the basement, okay? I cannot store anything in the basement between the mold and the mice chewing it up. The vault is full. We have records, thank heavens we only started in 1916 because there will be no more room to keep anything there. And if we would have been in the 1800s, we would be really messed up, you know? Elections, okay, it's only twice a year, sometimes 3 or 4 times a year, depending when they call special ones. I am there setting up between the fire engines the day before and 6 o'clock in the morning to try to be ready so that I can say we can open at 8. Because I've had people say, well, why don't we open earlier? I can't. I don't want to sleep there all night or be there all night long setting up. We can't keep the fire engine out in the cold weather because they're full of water, and the ambulance has, you know, IV solutions. You can't put that stuff outside. And one of these days, somebody's going to get hit because of the traffic and the parking on, you know, the elections. It really scares me in the dark at night when people are coming in and out. It's logistically to bring everything to the school. I used to do that, and that was a nightmare, to try to set up and be taken down so they can have school the next day. You don't have just meetings a couple of times a year. Your planning board meets every other week. The selectmen meet every other week. You have other committees. Why can't we have the Golden Girls used to meet at the fire station? There's no room for them anymore. We don't have room to have Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts or anybody meet in town. They have to go out of town to meet because there is no place in town for them to share anything. I think we need to start having some community pride. Either site with me, I'm open, you know. I mean, I can see pros and cons to both. I think if we build a town hall on Route 1, it would encourage, like Rich said, a sandwich shop and other buildings to come around that area. Everybody's got wetlands. Disney World was built on a swamp. If they can build on a swamp, there must be things that we can do to make it buildable. I think 4 acres, I don't think 4 acres is enough. I think we're being short-sighted. If you're going to buy the Limerick Road property, I think you should look into, we don't have enough room for our kids with the ball fields. There's not a lot of young parents here, but I think, ball field, little recreation area, the teachers keep the kids off, some of the kindergarten kids, because some of the playground equipment is too big for these kindergartner kids. We don't have any room to take our little preschool kids. There's no place in Arundel for you to sit down and bring a grandchild over and, like Park Street or something like that. There's no place in Arundel that we can do anything without having to get out of Arundel. And I think Arundel needs to start being a community. And let's see, what else? Adequate. I don't think you realize that the town planner has this nice GIS map thing that we can't even fit the printer in his office. You can't meet, the code enforcement officer can't meet in private because the assessor is right next door. And if I need to get something and they're in one room and they don't hear their phone, we literally have to run up those stairs, which are not handicapped accessible, which have a sign, watch your head, because they're so steep that, tall people will hit themselves. I don't think it's adequate anymore. I think it's well past, it's been converted several times, and I really think we need to start taking pride in our community. And I think the budget board and selectmen will be responsive to that as far as our tax rate goes. Thank you for listening.
Well, I'm the bad guy that owns the land.
Which one?
And we did come up with $200,000 for the 4 acres of land. Now, originally, we said $250 because I had an architect come in and draw it up and come up with a financial value of all the land with the housing development. Now, the town came to me. I didn't come to the town. I could care less whether the town buys it or not. We really don't care. We're going to do something with that land. We have to. We're just paying the taxes on it now. We have to do something with that land. And at this point, the town wants it. I would rather see the town hall there than me put in houses up there. Granted, there would be, I would try to put in like 2 or 3 acre lots or something to make it look nice. But I have to do something with it. And also, we have people here that came, this has come from the Kennebunkport Land Trust, who want to add to this. They have come to us, my wife and I, and they have said, we may be interested in dealing with the town. But that will leave that to the Kennebunkport Land Trust and the information that they have. But it's $200,000. Was it $250? We decided together that we would go down 50 to prevent housing development going in there. I don't want to do anything with it. I would like to leave it like that forever. I really would. I just spent money clearing it all out, taking all the softwood out of there. It looks nice. It's all been groomed and pulled back in, and it looks nice. There's certain trees I wouldn't let them cut. There's certain trees that they did cut. I mean, I was there every day, all the time they were cutting it, and clean that up. I love the land, but I have to do something with it, or we have to do something with it. Lesser of two evils is if the town buys it, and the Kennebunkport Land Trust buys the rest, and Kennebunkport Land Trust and the town of Arundel deal with each other on more land, less land, but that's here nor there at this point.
Diane, you first.
Okay, thank you very much. I know that's a very difficult position to be in. But understand that as a town, this is always difficult for us. And I've lived here for a long time, and this is just the way we hash it out. It's not personal. I did have a couple of things though, and I'm gonna go back, and I know that you don't want to hear it. The actual town hall, did we ever explore? Because we can replace that town hall with the exact same size town hall without having to worry about setbacks, can we not? Because it would be replacing the current building.
You'd still have to build it up and put in an elevator though. It has to be made ADA compatible.
Well, not the whole building has to be ADA.
That does. If it's a public office, the whole building has to be ADA.
Well, we have a lot of times, Diane, where I have to literally go upstairs and get Jim from code enforcement to come down because somebody can't make it upstairs. And so he has to meet down here. The sheriff's department, he's got a desk behind me. If anybody comes in, we've had to boot Wendy out of her office so you can meet in the middle of winter instead of standing out on the ramp. You know what I mean? It's just,
Let him go sit out in his very expensive $30,000.
and just.
I don't have any pity on that.
Okay, just one other thing though, you know, okay, I right now wear 3 hats. This town has been growing. I don't think that in the future, I can see down the road where you're gonna have to split those positions, town clerk, tax collector. It's a lot of work. Elections, I have to sit at my desk and try to prepare all this paperwork and not make mistakes while I'm doing the counter, and there's nowhere for me to go, or for, you know, it's like, where can I go to sit there and say, I need to just focus on this so I don't make any mistakes on something, committing the taxes or doing anything like that. And you're sitting there.
Simone, you haven't even let me get past what my question was.
I'm just saying, preparing this town
I
hall.
wasn't saying you didn't have enough room, I wasn't saying that there
I'm
was
just saying-
anything wrong, I was just saying, have we explored whether or not we could put a building on the site that we already own? And apparently, we can't do
I don't
one
think that's
multi-stories without putting in an elevator.
Right.
But, I don't know how much an elevator costs.
A lot.
I don't know, we're already talking right now, $2.5 million. So if we're talking $2.5 million, what would it cost to put an elevator if we replaced our current building? We don't know that, and we already own that piece of property already, and we already have parking there.
You know, the problem, Diane, is you can build a new building there and you can put an elevator in. But you've got to go back to Simone's point. There's not enough room in that building for the people who are working there now.
Yes.
And this town has been growing. All you got to do is look at your historical figures. The town is growing, and I suspect it's probably, if anything, going to grow faster over the next few years than what it has been doing.
But growing faster
Now,
doesn't...
if you bear with, just bear with me for
No,
a second.
I would like to ask my questions, and I would like to be able to say something without being interrupted.
Yeah.
Please.
I'd like to be able to voice my opinions and voice my questions without listening to different people's tirades who want this done. Because as a taxpayer, I've lived here for a long time.
Okay, we've been listening to you several times tonight. Get on with it and ask your questions.
I've had enough. Just like this.
Bound to determine you want to spend this damn money, go ahead and spend the damn money, I don't care.
Jack?
Yes, I'd like to make a brief presentation, if I may.
Okay.
Comparing the sites. And I will take questions.
You need a hand, Jack?
Sure. Thank you. I think I know most of the people in the room, but not all. My name's Jack Reeds, and I've been one of the people pestering these selectmen for quite a while now. We've been working on this, we're talking about it for, 14 years now, and in the last few months, several of us have talked with our selectmen, and I'm delighted that we're having a meeting like this tonight, a public forum.
Could you speak up just a little?
I will, thank you. My voice is not
I
real
know,
strong.
but I want to hear everything you say.
Okay, I'll try. The thing of it is that Arundel is in fact growing. We've talked about having a vision of what the future is for this town. It's over 4,000 now. It's going to be 5,000 people in not too many years. Our schools are doing very, very well, and
we're trying to look to the future. We looked at all three of these sites. Now, you've all seen a map of Arundel with Kennebunkport on this side, Kennebunk down here, a little squiggly line there is the mighty Kennebunk River. Not much water in it right now. And there are two highways, as we all know. I-95 and Route 1, going more or less north and south. You've got to ask yourself the question, where in the world is Arundel, Maine? There are hundreds of thousands of people going through here every year, and hardly anybody even knows we're here. Similarly, along Route 1, there are more local people, and why are they here? To buy a car, hopefully, and or to wet their whistle at Bentley's. That's about it.
Now, don't forget to repair them too.
And repair the cars. That's good point, Marty. Last year, what we did, we went from a 2-stoplight town to a 3-stoplight town. That's about where we are. Nobody knows us, but what kind of a community do we want to be? We're not going to be a huge industrial town. Our citizens have spoken. We want to be a rural town, but you need a sufficient business to pay a portion of the taxes, certainly. And we've studied in the last, and talked about tonight, all three sites. Let me show you on a map where they are. Of course, the town hall is here, Mildred Day, right next to the turnpike. This one site, this one here, is the 10-acre site near Ward Lears Motor. And this one down here is on Route 1 and River Road. Of the three sites, a group of us have tried to compare them from a cost standpoint. You've heard some of the numbers. And we've looked in particular at this site, on North Road. The small pink area that you see here is the 4 acres or so that would be necessary for the town hall building, parking, and perhaps town recreation area, depending on the acreage. And this area here is about 26 acres, 26, 28 acres of the total 36. And it comes back to within about 150 feet of the Eastern Trail and the small part of the Kennebunk River. This area is potentially available as well because its property owner is interested possibly in contributing to this process. We have a vision of really a town hall that reflects the rural community, that keeps these sites available for industrial use, business use, and tax revenue. Whereas the town hall really is not a business. It doesn't create revenue other than taxpayer revenue flowing. A lot of money flows through it, but it isn't a business that gets taxed. And then doing something really great with this area back here. And there are several other people that I would like to have come up here and talk and explain what their thoughts are on how we can take and protect this land through a community land trust, basically an Arundel land trust that would protect this land forever.
and give us access to this trail and hiking, walking, a place to picnic by the river here. There are all sorts of things that can be done. And the land already is, in the last month or two, has really been improved in the sense that there's been about a, 40, 50 foot wide, 40 feet wide trail cut down through the center of this property, nearly to the end, providing very easy bicycle access to the eastern trail if we can accomplish that. So we think this can be done, and we have a vision that we want to give it a try, and that this will really put Arundel on the map as a starting point, not an end point, but a starting point in making this town a great place to live. Thank you.
So you're recommending, Jack, you and the group that you're working with, you're recommending the Limerick Road site?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right.
No question about it.
I wanted to just, can I have my stick? I wanted to just kind of reiterate the cost, because I believe we need a new town hall. So for me, it's which of the two. And I'm very much in favor of the Limerick Road, because I think the Route 1 corridor should be what we've called business-centric. And what we've got here in this area is what we talked about is people-centric. We've got the fire department, we've got the school, we've got the services. And this our community, let's face it, over the last few years has been through hell with fighting groups around the school. And it's time to try to come together and try to connect to that vision that you would share, Delaney, but that we're talking about. But I wanted, my piece was just to kind of relook at the cost, to understand. So, as we're looking at it, we don't have all the costs on the one down on the corner. But basically, just, this, can you put it up? Is this the latest one? Okay. So basically, they're all very close, they're the same. We talked about the 816 as the site cost. I don't want to call you Mr. Sebago, so.
Call me Will.
Will. Okay. So the site cost actually on the Route 1 is much higher than that, it's $976. Am I correct, Will? And it gets down to the 816, which is the true final cost, but that's with the donation from Mr. Pramont.
Correct.
So the net is 816, but just the site costs themselves are more. So what we're talking about between these two is really 816 to 810. So I just want to reiterate that between the two, the costs are the same, except for me, a couple of big differences. Is this one we own, and so we could presumably sell that. I have no idea what you'd sell it for, a couple of $100,000 maybe. So you could actually take this one down by that amount. But as they stand, they're both equal as we go into it. I know there have been some concerns about the Limerick Road, about lighting. That people were afraid somehow it was going to be too bright. So,
Light pollution.
Pardon?
I said, yeah, you'll get your light pollution.
Light pollution was a concern. So I was talking to Jim Stockman, who runs J&M Lighting Design. This is the work he does. And he was willing to talk to folks just to understand what could be mitigated about this property, where that's been a concern that I've heard. And then I would think if you give us a couple of minutes to do that, if you guys are okay with it, and then to really get into what we could do with this. If as a community we could come together and come together with another organization with no extra charge cost to the town, but as a community we could pull together to do something quite beautiful. So are you okay if Jim talks, because he's kind of come as a courtesy? Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Just very quickly, I'm Jim Stockman. I call myself a luminologist. It's a word I made up, but I study lumens, which is what's coming out of all of these lights here. And I've been an expert witness. I've worked in environmental lighting, starting it here in northern New England almost 40 years ago. And basically, we have the technology that we literally can do anything. I can give you an example. I worked on a project for the Dartmouth School Department in Hanover, New Hampshire. And the high school was totally surrounded by residences. And I did the hearings, I did everything, I designed a job, and I said, you will not see this light. And 2 or 3 years later, I went to another hearing, and somebody came up to me, and they said, it's what you promised. I don't know that those lights are on. So we have the technology that we can do lighting today and keep it on your property. On the Limerick Road site, there is no competition except my competitor in the daytime and that reflected light at night. But other than that, it is a dark site, so we don't need a great deal of light. We're not selling product. Now, to be sure that you really cover it, you could put a sign that said, you can only allow people to park dark cars underneath the lights so they will not reflect the light. The other thing that is very much common today is that in certain areas of the country where they're very sensitive to the environment, places like the Columbia River Valley, Lake Tahoe, other areas that are really pristine, they will even go so far as to dictate the color of the building so that the light won't reflect off of the building. Works great here in northern New England if I use the dark colors for the summertime, but I haven't figured out how to not have the building stick out like a sore thumb when it's winter and I have snow on the ground, or if I paint it white, how do I not make it so? But there are ways of doing this so that this building will have very little impact. It will be safe, it will be secure, and for the most part, your ordinance already addresses a great many of these details, including don't leave the lights on all night, turn them off. So that when people are there, fine, when you're done, turn them off and return the site to its pristine night environment.
And Jim, do these things cost any more?
No, the dollars are coming down so fast that by the time you get this project in, they'll be they'll be the standard technology. This new product.
There'll be something else up.
I'm sorry?
There'll be something else up by the time we get this done.
That's part of the problem, is that by that point LED will probably be passé and we'll be dealing with something else. But we are already spoiled in terms of the ability to control that light. In some cases, what we're doing is we will have a very high light level. When it's open for business, we'll drop it right down to almost nothing. To give you a perspective very quickly, moonlight on a full moon here in northern New England is 0.01 foot candles, a measurement of light. On June 21st, in the daytime, on top of this roof, is 10,000 foot candles. And so that's the difference. So if you want 2 foot candles or 1 foot candles, that's a lot of light. You people in your environment could go down to a ½ a foot candle, a ¼ of a foot candle, and you would still have good visibility, safe lighting, but not a lot of light bouncing off of that site.
Question?
Yes.
One of the concerns I know is the neighbors and the people who live around this area. What can you do to prevent their home from being invaded by the lights of this?
Well, there's 2 issues here. Number 1 is the issue of the light coming from this light here and that ray of light hitting that home. your ordinance already says that I'm limited to X amount of light at the property line and cannot go over. So we have ways of putting shield, directing the lights to customize it so it will not. Now, the second part of the question is, will I see that light? The visual brightness of that light. There was a project I did over in Lake Champlain for an assisted living, and people were worried that the sun would bounce off the windows, and so they made them put shades up so that the light wouldn't bounce. So that's what you see, is the inside of your building lit. You're going to see that, all right? Put the shades up. If you really want to keep it, all of these things are ways to get people to accept this project. The best example I can give you is if you drive down to Kennebunkport on North Street where the fire station is. And I'm chairman of the lighting committee in Kennebunkport, and I helped design the lighting. And the lighting there, as you go down North Street and you look at it, people think it's dark.
Yeah.
And yet, when you drive underneath it, you feel fine because there's light. And so I have this conflict of interest where I have people saying it's dark, and yet when you're there, it feels lit. And so I can't satisfy everybody. But we can do it. And again, that town hall right there, that meeting room, fire station, that parking lot, the neighbors are right there. And if you'll notice, no light trespasses and goes beyond that site. It stays on the site. It's a vertical lamp. It is a flat glass. And the light comes down and lights the people and the cars and does not spread the light anywhere else. Somebody else? Yes.
I love your ideas. Would you explain to the selectmen, since lighting has come down so much, maybe they might be able to do something on Route 1. There.
Inside joke. I understand, and having battles with CMP right now, because we're trying to get them to retain our beautiful platter lights, which are those round lights in Kennebunkport that have a 105-watt incandescent lamp. We are the only town, I think, in the world that still has these lights. And we're trying to replace them with LED. And of course, CMP says, well, we'll get to it, we'll get to it. But the legislature did pass an instruction to the PUC that municipalities can buy the lights and put them on the utility poles. So we're trying to do that, but there's some foot drag in here. But it's all about cost. So if you want to light Route 1, just remember, somebody's got to pay for it. Because they don't give it away. Anybody else?
So you'd say you'd be doing the opposite of Route 1 in Kennybunk?
Oh, I hope so.
That's a landing strip.
That's a landing strip. And somebody at one time asked me what was the greatest instruction for a lighting designer, and I very briefly said, aging. Because at my age today, I see very differently. I have trouble with night driving. I used to love night driving. I wear the yellow glasses. The reason I wear them is because my eye cannot adapt from a headlight coming quickly. And this way, it equals it out. So, am I sympathetic? Very much so. Because I want that light cut off. I want to have those reflectors down the highway. I still don't understand why the municipalities put the bright lines in the springtime when the sun, for the whole summer, bleaches them out. And by the time I need it in the wintertime, when they've faded. So, anybody else?
Thank you
Thank you.
My pleasure. We haven't seen each other in years, we've worked together for 40 years.
I just have a couple questions. Somebody mentioned that we had a contingency for the repair to the town hall that we have now.
We have a capital reserve fund for the municipal buildings.
And how much is in there?
There's roughly around 360,000 in there right now.
So that, if let's say that we go for building a new, that would be put towards that?
Yes, that would be
Yes.
the decision that the board could make, yes.
Okay, and the other thing is that.
That would be a decision you folks would make.
Everybody has concerns about, nobody wants their taxes to go up and all of this. And we have an estimate for an 8,000 square foot building.
Yes.
So could we get estimates for, let's say, a 4,000 or 6,000 square foot building with the option of later on, if need be, for an addition? Could we just get those estimates so we have something to compare it to?
Yeah, I think we can do them right here. Generally about $200 a square foot in whatever size building.
I'm not
you
good
make.
at math, I don't have my calculator.
Go ahead. But yes, it
1.2
can be
million,
done.
he's in back.
It can be done.
Where was the 8,000 square foot sort of thought of? Like, is it sort of the, like, desire or whatever, like?
No, what it was back in, I think it was 2012, there was a discussion, and I'm sure some of these people here know more than me, discussion with the departments that operate the building, plus our future needs, in designing it in such a way to give adequate space for not only now, but the thought was 30 or 40 years down the road too, so we design it in such a way that it will accommodate that.
I just have two quick questions. We know that on the Route 1 property, the water and the road is already in there. Now, on the Limerick
Oh, no,
Road
the
property.
road's not in there.
Road's not in.
The road is not in?
No.
No.
Well, there's just a small area from Plumondon's to,
You can see it on there. The shared driveway.
the driveway to Plumondon's is there. Now, it needs to go from Plumondon's just into the lot.
No, it would have
No,
to be
the
wide.
Plumondon's road right now comes a little bit onto our right-of-way,
Right.
but then it goes onto his land. So,
So
I don't know how long it is, but only a slight amount of his road right now is in our 50-foot right-of-way.
We're not gonna be able to use his road.
You're gonna have to go beside of his road?
Right, that's where our
Well, the
right-of-way
Black
is.
Ranch House.
Right.
You're gonna have
Where
to
you
move
used
that.
to live.
Right.
Okay, so there, and also on the Limerick Road, two questions there. The road has to be put in. Who pays for that road?
We had site cost that we
Okay,
anticipate.
so that is another cost
Right.
over and above the cost of the lot.
Yes,
Yes.
you're right. You have the lot cost, then you had 610,000 of site cost.
Right.
That 610,000 includes the road being built.
That includes the cost of building the road.
Yes.
And the parking lots.
What about water?
All that's,
And
Water on that site would be by well, and that's built into the site cost.
That's into the site plan.
Good water?
Hopefully.
Roll your crystal ball, Marty, you tell us.
Well, no one's
Salt
gonna
water?
Wait a minute. Hold on just a second, Marty, with that question, Steve, there's water on that site now, there are people that live in that house, how is the water on that site?
Well, we drilled it when we sold the house. They went down 138 feet. And they hit shale and bedrock, and they're getting 16 gallons a minute, and it was very drinkable. But 100 yards up, who knows?
Okay,
Yeah, I just want to make, I just want to make one point. You know, there was some comments earlier about, you know, the selectmen spending all kinds of money. If you were at the last town meeting, the public came to us and said, hey, we want more police protection, right? There's also been a lot of discussion over the years for town hall. So the selectmen have due diligence to look at this stuff, and that's all we're doing. We're putting this stuff together, we're trying to get all the information that we can, and we're presenting it to you folks, we're looking for input, and at some point in time, you're all gonna vote for this. So, you know, we're not spending money, we're doing our due diligence to try to do what the public has asked us to do. There are people that are gonna be against it, there are people that's for it, but that's the democratic process.
I would worry one thing about finances. If we're going to do this, Let's do it ASAP, because we've got the cheapest money we're
Yes.
ever going to have.
Yes.
For bonding, yes.
Yes.
For bonding, for sure.
When did we do the survey about making a new town hall? Was this like 4 years ago? Oh, gosh, I can't remember.
That's been going on for years.
But but I don't
There
remember
was
being
a-
here, and there was the most recent one.
I
And
think it
wasn't
was
that
the
like,
most recent, I think, was the Chesapeake Group, which was, I believe, around 2012, 2013.
2012, 2013, yes.
Yeah. And I would like to point out one quick thing. I know everybody's concerned about the impact on taxes. Now, if I can bore you to death for just a minute. I ballparked the building at $2 million, and I figured another $1 million for site preparation and all that, for a total of $3 million. We're just talking round figures here. If you take $3 million and look at a 20-year bond, you're gonna come out with approximately $200,000 per year that's gonna need to be paid, okay? The impact on your taxes based on that $200,000 is 48 cents per year, okay? Now, bear with me.
Per thousand, yeah.
Per year.
Now that 48-cent figure is only good if the valuation for all the property in Arundel remains unchanged. Now, if you actually look at Arundel's valuations for the last 4 years, it's increased from 390 million up to 412 million this year. In fact, it went up over 10 million just in the last year. Now, if we change this from an unchanged category to just the average of what Arundel's valuation has increased over the last 4 years, this is just average, this isn't high. That 49-cent tax increase drops to 22 cents.
Wow.
Okay? And that's just an average valuation increase. The 10 million that we increased last year would probably fall more toward the high range. So if we would change that to high,
Any other spending costs?
You're isolating the
we
impact.
find we are suddenly down to a 10-cent increase on your taxes. So before everybody panics about a half a buck being put on your taxes, this town is growing. In my opinion, it will continue to grow for the next few years. And right now, I think is the time to do it, because you could be looking at an increase in taxes of approximately a quarter of what it looks like up here. There, we're looking at almost 50 cents. If we stay on the high side, which is 10 million, which is what we did last year, we're looking at an increase of 10 cents.
That's it.
Yes?
So I think one of the things that everybody's been kind of pointing to is this whole sense of community, and I am absolutely for the Limerick site. Part of that, I work for a conservation trust, I work for the Kennebunkport Conservation Trust. One of the things that I'm seeing in Arundel that I've witnessed through where I work is that the land is now going up for sale. If you drive around this town, you will see 57 acres, 70 acres, 42 acres, 35 acres. This town has said they want to stay and remain a rural community. There is no way to do that unless we start taking some action to create a community plan or a community action group. That's not taxpayers, that's people, well, I mean, they are taxpayers, but they're not, it's not tax money going to that group. That's a community effort to come together and come up with a plan of how we want to responsibly grow our community and how we want to be a community. I think this land has an opportunity here to be a community center that's not a burden on the taxpayer. I think it has an opportunity for trails. We have a lot of over 50 homes that are coming in. Where are they going to bring their grandchildren? Where are they going to bring their dogs? They don't have yards. There's no town center here. we go somewhere else. We're always destination bound to somewhere else. We shop places else. We go to the beach places else. We go to be in a town park somewhere else. It would be very lovely for this community to start thinking of itself as a community in a very community-centered area, which is that Limerick Road. That is where that's where our current town hall is, that's where our fire station is, and it's where our school is. And to have the opportunity to create something that's not on the taxpayer's back, that's a community-centric, community-driven by Arundel, our town, what we want, to create something to bring us all together. There's one thing we all agree on. We don't all agree about taxes. We don't all agree about schools. But by God, this town has shown that they do agree on loving the land. That's something that connects every single one of us. It's why I do what I do. I'm an education director. I get kids outside because it's important and it's valuable and it lengthens lives and it makes people happier. If we have an opportunity to create something that is for everyone in this community, to bring us all together, and it can piggyback on this beautiful piece of property. And I know, yes, you're right, somebody said we already have a connection to the Eastern Trail, but somebody's gonna die there. And I'm just gonna throw that out there, because I've nearly been hit a few times getting out of my car. It's ridiculous. That's not a great connection for that trail. And I'm not saying we'll have that opportunity necessarily. A few of us did come to the Conservation Trust and talk and just got guidance. And they're willing to give us guidance on how to go about this whole process. And I think it's a really important thing that we need to think about. We have a lot of land out there that is going to be eaten up. And we need to be thoughtful about that. If we're all saying that we want to have a rural community, what does that really mean? Does that mean one neighborhood after another, even if it's 3 acres per home? Because right now, when I drive from my house to work, I see more neighborhoods and more land for sale than I have ever seen since I've lived here. Arundel is going to grow. We are in probably a 5-year window right now of huge growth. And so we can either sit back and let the rest of this place define us, or we can stand up and define ourselves as a community and what we want. And we have a wonderful opportunity here to create trails that are ADA possible, so that people can get out on them no matter what their age are. We're inviting 50 and over homes. That's possible. I will tell you that our trail work that we do out at the Trust is completely volunteer driven. That is not taxpayers that pay for any of that. We build the trails, we maintain the trails, that's it. It's a community driven thing. It creates a sense of community. And that is something that I have craved since I've lived here, is to have a sense of community. And we don't have it. We really don't. And I do think that this is an opportunity. I mean, you can choose to disagree with me, you can chase me out of the room, but I'm just saying my opinion. It's an opportunity.
Just to follow up on that, like, you got the Land Trust, the Kennebunkport Conservation Trust has expressed interest in helping us with this.
Yeah, I mean, in guiding us. I mean, it's the chicken and the egg and all of that. And, I don't know what position they will take or whether it's guiding. They want Arundel to be in charge.
And a follow-up on that, if the town hall were to go on one of the other choices, would that interest still be here?
No.
So this would be a chance to leverage a municipal purchase onto something much bigger, much grander, much more unifying.
I think we're ignoring the elephant in the room, and no disrespect to this fine gentleman who owns the property. We're talking about 4 acres, he's got another 32 acres. We don't have a clue as to what those other 32 acres will cost. If you extrapolate that out, those 32 acres are gonna cost over $1 million.
That's not our issue. That's not our issue.
It is, because we're talking about using the 36 acres. We're gonna buy the 4 and then we're gonna have the other 32.
Well, somebody's gotta-
That's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about taxpayers buying that money at all, buying that land. That's not.
Talking about the Arundel Conservation Trust.
Then they can sell the land and do whatever they want. If they wanna put houses out there, they can put houses out there. And I don't blame you for wanting to get as much money as you can out of this land. You're entitled to do it. You own it, and more power to you. I'm just concerned from a taxpayer point of view, that we might end up with a $2 million piece of land. That's my whole concern.
John, we're not buying the land. We're not buying the 26 acres. If this went ahead, as it's talked about, the Arundel Conservation Trust would buy the land. That is not a municipal thing. That's you coming in as a volunteer and donating some money,
If you choose to.
if you choose to.
Do you have that money on hand right now? What's your window of opportunity is I think the issue that needs to be kind of addressed in the room, is what's the timelines on this? Okay, if the town buys the piece of property, they own the piece of property, that's all well and good, town hall can always go there. But in order to grab the land behind it, you've got a certain timeline you're going to have to meet in funding in order to, for this gentleman to fulfill his life dreams too, you know, and again, he's owned it for some period of time, I take it.
Well, the
Pay
thing
taxes.
if the town did buy it and Kenny Arundel Land Trust was really interested, I have no issues with holding on to it for a while, because I told you before, I don't want to do anything with this land. I really don't.
No, okay, yeah, no, I understand where you're probably coming from.
I mean,
you're like the community here, you like the land here, and that's a good thing. But again, you know, there's a timeline, I mean, you know.
Yeah, if you're talking 8-10 years down the road.
Right.
But I mean, it would be all reasonable, it would be very reasonable, and I mean, that could be easily worked out before anything was done.
What are we gonna get information on the Route 1 property?
Well, we have some information on it. It will be up to the selectmen if they wish to expend more funds to do a site development of that location. And I think one of the things that they wanted to do this evening was to hear what the public generally wanted to say in terms of the sites, and try to help them make a decision as to where they want to go next. So we'll talk about it some more and see where it takes us.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to know what the site development cost for that property would be.
Which one?
The River Road Route 1 property?
The one right behind Vinegar Hill?
Yes.
Yes.
You know, the one comment that I want to make is, let's not be short-sighted here, you know, obviously, we need to make sure that we look at the future. You know, I've heard comments over the years, boy, I wish we'd have bought that piece of property, I wish we'd have done this, I wish we'd have done that, right? So, you know, it may be a lot of money now, but down the road, you know, we probably, you know, think about that. Don't just sit back and say, look, like, you know, all we need is just 4 acres and that's it. I mean, you're gonna make your decision, but you gotta look down the road, you gotta sit back and again, I've heard too many people, we've had opportunities come up to this town in the past, and I've heard, you know, too many people say, boy, we missed out on that, you know, we should have bought that. So just kind of keep that in mind as this goes through.
Yeah, chances are the price isn't gonna go down.
I really would like to wrap it up, but if there's anything else that we need to really talk about, I think you've given us some great information, and the selectmen have a lot more work to do.
I just have one comment.
Yes.
One brief comment. If any of you guys have been to Scarborough recently, they've done a lot of development up on Low Hill and where the school is, where the town hall is. And that park is an unbelievable location for the town center to have functions. I like the opportunity of access to land that we can envision something in the future where we do have the possibility of land usage where we have a park. Not only a place for your grandchildren, but a place to have outdoor events, concerts, anything that would draw and improve that sense of community where it's multifunctional space, outdoor multifunctional space. Not just, I would envision more than just a building. I would envision more green space for undeveloped opportunity, which is whatever we choose it to be, ball fields, a park, anything. I just feel that the Route 1 site, even though it's, we own the land, it's extremely restrictive with any of that type of vision that we may want to expand on the next decade or 20 years for the next generation of people coming into our life.
Thank you. With that, we'll wrap it up. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Want to do the,
Don't forget,